In the late 1980s, the state of Iowa had gained a reputation as one of the 3 worst states in America for homeschoolers. Newly proposed legislation threatened oppressive requirements for Iowa homeschooling families, and the Iowa Supreme Court ruled that parents guilty of truancy could be charged with child abuse. Homeschooling parents could face not just fines or jail time, but the removal of their children from their homes. Homeschooling families were isolated and intimidated. Some even moved out of Iowa to avoid the risk of losing their children. It became clear that if homeschooling families didn't stand together, they risked falling victim to the state, one by one. It was during those volatile years that a small group of 8 homeschooling families responded to the challenge. In February of 1992, these families contributed $25 each toward the production of a fledgling statewide homeschool newsletter. The first issue was typed on an Apple II GS computer by a homeschool mom who was 9 months pregnant with her 5th child. She picked up the freshly printed newsletters on her way home from the hospital with her newborn baby. This was the humble beginning of what would become known as the Network of Iowa Christian Home Educators. As Niche gained members and support, it began to monitor and oppose harmful legislation. In 1994, Niche joined a nationwide movement that helped defeat H.R. 6 in the U.S. Congress, a bill that would have required parents to possess teacher certification to educate their children. By the year 2000, Iowa homeschooling numbers had nearly doubled, but the battle to maintain homeschool freedom was far from over. In 2001, several school districts carelessly released homeschoolers' personal information. Niche used federal legislation and a new privacy form to institute protection. In 2003, Niche succeeded in removing the requirement for an approval application to homeschool a special needs child. In 2004, an Iowa school district demanded that homeschooling parents submit annual assessment results that were not required by law. Niche responded, and the demands were dropped. Homeschooling families in another district received requests for their students' birth certificates. Niche responded, and the school district backed down. In 2005, Niche began efforts to influence the 10-year revision of the homeschool administrative rules. When the revisions were enacted in 2008, these Niche efforts resulted in significant advances in Iowa homeschool freedom. Repeatedly, bills were introduced in the Iowa legislature to expand the compulsory attendance age and state oversight of homeschoolers. Each time, Niche successfully opposed these attempts. Niche also successfully blocked an effort to drop no-cost testing from dual enrollment benefits by producing a refuting document from a 20-year-old Niche archive file. When school districts began charging dual-enrolled students the same fee as fully enrolled students, Niche intervened to end this practice. When homeschool parents were threatened with truancy charges if they failed to file forms that were not required by law, Niche defended them. This year, Niche continued its legislative efforts, championing significant additions to the governor's education reform bill, including independent private instruction and parent-taught driver education. Niche also continues to sponsor events, communications, and resources to equip, inform, and encourage homeschooling families across the state. What began as a small group of concerned parents in the late 1980s has grown into one of the most effective voices for freedom in Iowa today. Its strength lies in the courage, faith, and dedication of the pioneers who went before us. As we face the future, we invite you to join with Niche in resolve to protect those freedoms so courageously earned by generations past. And we urge you to stand with Niche to preserve those freedoms for the generations to come.